Newcastle United are announcing themselves on the world stage by signing highly rated AC Milan midfielder Sandro Tonali. But how could he improve them, and what could he do to change the way this Newcastle side play? Join me as we head to the tactics board today to find out. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new, like the video, and hit that notification bell. And now, let's discuss how Sandro Tonali improves Newcastle United. Here we have Sandro Tonali in this Newcastle United setup. This particular one is in a 4-3-3 with Tonali as the main central defensive midfielder. Now, when we actually talk about Tonali, he's actually a fantastic signing for Newcastle United, not only because of his great talent, his ability on the ball, his ability to pass through the lines. We'll get to that in just a moment, but also generally it improves Newcastle to no end with incredible squad depth. We know they are in the UEFA Champions League, and let's face it, Bruno Guimaraes is not going to be able to play every single match. He's going to need to be rested at some point, which means that you need someone to come and take the reins, and at the moment they just don't have that. However, with Tonali in the side, it is a fantastic signing. Only 23 years old as well, Bruno's 25, which means you have two players who are very young, who have the ability to really drive forwards and also have the ability to improve based on the players around them. In this particular side, we have Tonali as this central defensive midfielder in Bruno Guimaraes' position. Now, he does a lot of things very similar to Bruno Guimaraes. He wins nearly enough the same amount of ground duels, nearly enough the same amount of aerial duels, and generally going forwards, he's also quite good. In the attacking phase of play, you'll see him move forward, obviously with the side as everyone moves up the pitch, but then you'll start to see him really pass through the lines, make those difficult passes through and around, rotating the ball around in possession like Bruno does, and also moving himself around the pitch as well. Bruno tends to stay within the width of the penalty areas, making sure that he moves across as an option for either side, making sure that he's able to rotate possession and make sure obviously that Newcastle are in possession and stay that way. Tonali is very good at finding those key passes through, not necessarily creating those major big chances near the edge of the box, but it's more the pass before the pass, if you know what I mean. He's very good, he's got a good vision about him, and he really can find a pass whenever he needs to. This isn't the only place that I can see him really working though. I've got a couple more scenarios and I'm going to show you them right now. Here we have the second one. This is Tonali just a little bit further forward. We've got him as the attacking 8. In the previous setup, we had Bruno Guimaraes not in the side because he is going to need to be rotated at some point. However, in here, we've got him as the main central defensive midfielder doing his job. Here, we've dropped one of the 8s. Now, it could be the likes of a Longstaff. It could be the likes of a Joe Linton. Joe Linton could move over here. You could have the number 7 over here. Tonali could come in. And then, obviously, you have your other midfield 8 here. This is a 4-3-3 setup once more. Nothing wrong with this at all. Tonali is going to be moving a little bit further forward in this scenario, obviously as the main attacking 8. This secondary lighter blue box is indicating the presence that he would have in a more attacking scenario. The darker one is the general footfall of play that he would have, drifting forwards, perhaps making a couple runs into the box, but mainly making sure that the ball is rotated around and leaving it to the more attacking minded players to really drive through. Make no mistake about it, Tonali is majorly a centre defensive midfielder or a centre midfielder. That's what his skill set operates. He keeps the ball very well. He's very good at passing. In his own half, he has a 90% pass success rate, which is very good. Only drops just a little bit later on as well. I think he has an 81% pass rate generally overall, which isn't bad at all, and I can only see that getting higher with the structure that Eddie Howe has in this Newcastle United side. But Tonali would drift and drive forwards. He'd find different pockets of space. He's a clever midfielder, and I believe under Eddie Howe he can get better. Eddie Howe has improved so many players in this Newcastle United team, and I don't see any reason why Tonali couldn't be another one of those. Finally, let's have a look at one more scenario. This one is a little bit more difficult. It's a little bit more intricate. This is a 4-2-3-1. We have a double pivot of Bruno Guimaraes and Tonali, and this one is the one that really lights me up. It's the one that I really like because in this scenario and in my brain, I've got James Maddison here as the main central attacking midfielder. Nothing against the likes of Sean Longstaff or the likes of Joe Willock. I think they're all perfectly fine. However, you bring in a Maddison, you move Joe Linton out onto this left-hand side, perhaps you could have Sam Maximin, perhaps you have Anthony Gordon. There is so many different options, but even Alexander Isak you could have there, or you could have a 4-4-2. The main point of this is that in this 4-2-3-1 scenario, you've got Bruno Guimaraes and you've got Tonali next to each other. Now, defensively, this really works because they're both quite good at tackling. They both are very good with the ball at their feet, but specifically, Tonali is very good at driving out of space. He carries the ball very well for a central defensive midfielder, and it's something that I don't think Bruno has all too much, if I'm completely honest. I don't think he has those progressive carries as many times as I think they would need, and even when he does do that, he sometimes gets isolated in certain scenarios, so I think having Tonali next to him would be very, very good. But that's not the only reason I have Tonali in this setup. It's also because I think Eddie Howe could really look at some of the other teams in the Premier League and start to adapt his game and start to adapt his game plan. If it was able to get a James Maddison who could move over to almost an attacking 8 position in possession, I think Tonali could then move forward into the space that we've seen him in previously in the previous setup. You could then have one of the fullbacks come into midfield a la a Man City or just like an Arsenal, and then you have this box midfield that we know is so popular in the Premier League right now. You've got the likes of another central attacking midfielder. It could be a James Maddison, it could be someone else, perhaps a Joe Willock. You have Tonali, you have the fullback who is next to Bruno Guimaraes, and then you have the option of defensive 2 midfield 8 or 2 midfield 6s. One can transition into an 8, but it also gives the flexibility on the other side. So, for example, if for whatever reason they decide to go the other route, I think there's a flexibility for something like this to happen, and Bruno Guimaraes goes forward and then you have another fullback coming forwards. I think this is going to be the future of Newcastle, and I think although it would take a lot of drilling into, it creates a balance down the side where either Bruno can go forwards or Tonali can, but whichever one does go forwards, the other stays behind. I think it would take a lot of training, it would take a lot of drills. However, if it was done properly, I think you'd find a better tactical outfit than you have already. And also, in certain scenarios, the team that has the fullback going into midfield can become somewhat one-sided, in the sense that one player is always drifting forwards and always going up to attack. For example, in the Arsenal system, Granit Xhaka would be always going forwards, and it occasionally would be easily read. However, if you have the dynamism of Bruno Guimaraes and Tonali, who both have the ability to go forwards whenever they need to, it becomes a little bit more difficult to read and more difficult to tactically prepare for. Now, it's definitely something that's a little bit of a question mark, it's definitely something that's a little bit experimental. However, it is something that I can expect Eddie Howe to be doing, just changing it up, looking forward for extra scenarios and extra solutions to different problems. This is the kind of flexibility and the kind of ability that Tonali can bring to this Newcastle side, as well as the ability for rotation, as well as his sheer quality on and off the ball. He's a top quality signing and would definitely improve Newcastle United. Now it's time for you to let me know how you're feeling about Tonali in this Newcastle side. Newcastle fans, talk to me. How are you feeling? Is it exciting? I bet it is. What do you think about the signing, and how do you think he would fit into this side? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. That's it from me for today. Thank you ever so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.